issues that was brought up to you on the campaign trail. I know you're not campaigning now. I know that the majority of voters put you in office. I know that you claim to be a conservative. And I know that Kansas is largely a conservative state. 1/3 of us, roughly, are not conservatives, and we have a rather different point of view on the issues. I think what we've seen here so far today is that there's not enough dialogue that goes anywhere. We have one side asserting this, another side asserting that, and more or less we end up saying, I agree to disagree. My question is, going forward, I really don't hold anything against you. I certainly prefer you to Tim Kuhl's camp. But my question is, going forward, is what can we do to change your mind? Assuming that you are a sincere individual who cares about the common good and the people of Kansas, regardless of party, regardless of point of view. What can people who disagree with you do to convince you that perhaps on a particular issue, your stated position, perhaps even your campaign position, needs modification, was incorrect? Perhaps you're looking at it the wrong way, or you're failing to consider something. We all have that vulnerability. We could be totally wrong in what we believe. You could be totally wrong in what you believe. How, concretely how, can we communicate to you in a meaningful way substantive concerns? I'm not just talking about counting up emails or constituent letters or office visits, because you're not here in the office to have a discussion with me over coffee for a half an hour about any given issue that's been raised here. Your staffers are, and that's great. Then I have to trust that your staffers are convinced. Then I have to trust that your staffers are going to convince you. You represent all of us Kansans, and say 1/3 of us don't necessarily agree with a lot of things you ran on, but hey, you're brand new. You don't have much of a voting record yet. You have a statement of positions. I disagree with a lot of them, and I'd like to convince you otherwise. But how do we do that meaningfully? Not just counting up numbers of people in favor and against, because that's essentially might makes right. We have a greater electoral strength than the other side, so we're going to keep listening only to our people. If there's something at issue here other than might makes right, say truth and the best policy going forward, how do we communicate with you from here on out?
I think the most important skill a physician has is their ability to listen. And I think that I've been told I'm a really good listener. For 2 years, I've been on the campaign trail and sat down with thousands of people and had that cup of coffee you're talking about. So whether it's immigration or healthcare, that's what shaped my opinions. Like all of you, I'm 55 years old. Certainly I have some moral values, some things that are really important to me. But I remain very, very focused on growing the economy, national security, and healthcare. There are so many issues, so many things to deal with that I can't possibly tend to solve all of them. So I'm going to stay very, very focused on them in the next 200 days.
You will, however, be asked to vote on issues all across the spectrum.
Right.
And I mean, at that level, hey, I'm glad somebody's up there focusing on agriculture and actually is on a committee that will be listened to representing the state of Kansas. But, you know, while there's been a diverse statement of concerns ranging from healthcare to immigration and agriculture and so on, and we could keep running down the list, you're going to be asked to stand up and be counted for issues that you don't choose perhaps to be your number one focus. For some people in these rooms, they might be the number one focus, and those people may know more than you about it in terms of their background. They may have studied other folks than you have studied, you know, depending on where we get our information.
Sure.
I'm not saying that all sources are equal. I'm just saying you have your focus. You'll be asked to weigh in on everybody else's focuses in terms of those bills and resolutions that arise, in terms of the president's policies. How do we, now that you're in D.C., and all respect to the hardworking campaign folks and staffers, how do we attempt to change your mind if we disagree with you?
Yeah, I think that's been the American process for 200 years. It's no different today than it was before. I would say that we're much more engaged with social media. I think that I've certainly spent total focus these first 2 months in Washington, D.C., trying to learn all the issues as best I can, growing relationship, so I could be a more effective congressman for you. And then still getting back and doing some agriculture events, since that's the most important committee that I'm on. So to answer your question, I'm going to keep listening. There's all these sources that we're talking about, but I do try to read as much as I can. I think it's better though to come as a group with an issue and say we have a group of people that want to talk about this issue and talk about solutions rather than just criticizing me. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Congressman Tim Ryan.